Everything in life is a negotiation. And what if everything you have been taught about negotiation, compromise, win-win deals, getting to the yes is actually destroying your leverage, costing you millions of dollars without even realizing it? Well, today's guest, Chris Voss, former FBI lead international kidnapping negotiator and author of Never Split the Difference, who spent decades in situations where a single wrong word could cost somebody's life. After talking down armed bank robbers, negotiating with terrorists, Chris discovered that the rational bargaining models taught in business schools don't just fail, they're dangerous. And now he teaches founders, CEOs, and negotiators worldwide how to use tactical empathy to really uncover hidden information, diffuse conflict, and gain leverage even when it seems like you don't have anything. This is a masterclass in conversation. You'll learn why forcing someone to say no is more powerful than chasing a yes, the exact calibrated questions that make aggressive counterparts solve your problems for you, and how to spot the verbal and tonal cues that reveal when someone is actually lying or hiding critical deal information, and the daily negotiation habit that Chris believes compounds into 10x results over a decade. So whether you're raising capital, hiring executives, negotiating your next stock deal, closing enterprise deals, or navigating a crisis, this episode completely will rewire how you communicate under pressure and do deals.
Hear the stories, learn the proven methods, and accelerate your growth and future through entrepreneurship. Welcome to the Foundr Podcast with Nathan Chan.
Chris, you've spent decades negotiating with terrorists, bank robbers, where a single word could get someone killed. Why do you believe the win-win compromise taught in most business schools is actually one of the most dangerous strategies a founder can rely on?
Yeah, well, first of all, compromise is guaranteed lose-lose. I have to lose something and you have to lose something. That's compromise. So to start with, would you compromise your integrity? No. Would you compromise your values? Now, the spirit of collaboration is good. The spirit of wanting to work with someone is where you really want to be. But compromise, by definition, is lose-lose to start with. And then secondly, you're trying to typically blend two different ideas. Your desire to preserve the other side's emotional state and feeling of avoidance of loss. Now, the desire and the intent is good, but you don't get there with the compromise. A couple of years ago, I'm hearing about two CEOs, co-CEOs. Their companies have come together. One is an established player in the industry, a lot of respect, great reputation, long-term stalwart of the industry. The other CEO is the newer guy, innovative, learning, great new up-and-coming partner. So they're trying to decide whether or not to build a new corporate headquarters. And the stalwart CEO is like, this is going to be really expensive. We're going to look bad if we blow this money on a corporate headquarters. We can't do that. And the new guy is like, to show we're cutting edge, we got to do it. So they compromise and do both because they can't decide whose idea is better. And it becomes a huge disaster, two bad ideas that don't fit together. And they end up losing both CEOs and wasting tons of money. So the intent to collaborate was there. But compromise as a mechanism is guaranteed lose-lose. So you should collaborate. You should figure out a better way. But you shouldn't just give the other guy half what they want and half what you want, because you're watering down both ideas. Get your ego out of the way, pick what the best strategy is to start with. So compromise, I go on forever about how the application of compromise as a solution is guaranteed lose-lose. Now, win-win has become a seductive terminology. And the cutthroat negotiators know, hey, I got a great win-win deal for you. So many people that desire to collaborate and have great relationships, they will just get taken to the cleaners by being seduced by those words. And I realize now, if somebody approaches me, I know if somebody approaches me and the first words out of their mouth are, let's do a win-win deal. I know they're trying to pick my pocket. They want to keep all the money, and my compensation is the privilege of being involved. That just happened to me over and over and over again, that if you throw win-win at me up front, you're not planning on paying me anything. So how do I respond and as a reaction? I'll say, I'm here for mutual gain. Let's take what you said. And if you're not after mutual gain, like if you're the guy who's trying to cut my throat, you're like, whoa. I'm going to tell your reaction to the phrase mutual gain, whether or not you're using that to cheat me. That's a diagnosis. All the black swan skills, you use the skill and you diagnose how the other side reacts, and it gives you information. And so don't use the term win-win. Let's talk about mutual gain. If I talk about mutual gain, if those words come out of my mouth, I've made a commitment that you got to gain. And now let's talk about what those gains are. So win-win has just been used to get people to give in and take to the cleaners over and over and over again.
Now, you talked about Black Swan skills and your company, Black Swan Group.
Black Swan Group.
Yeah. I'm curious, just for the audience, what is a black swan? A
black swan is the little thing that made all the difference in the world. So it could be a small piece of information. Nassim Nicholas's Taleb's book, The Black Swan, 2007-ish, was the inspiration for the title, and it was the inspiration for the name of my company, because the subtitle of that book is The Impact of the Highly Improbable. What was the small improbable thing that changed everything? So the application of that idea, what are the black swan negotiation skills, which were derived from hostage negotiation and adjusted for the business world, that are tiny little tweaks that make all the difference in the world in the acceleration of trust and collaboration and profitability? How do you gather information and increase trust? Most people gather information by asking questions. Asking questions makes the other person feel questioned, which decreases trust. How can I change this so that it's a comfortable conversation where I got a lot of information and you were happy to give it to me? So it's a combination of using innocuous, subtle skills, not chair kicking, shouting, hand slamming on the table skills, not demands, that then have a massive impact on the deal, the tiny little changes that make the deal phenomenal, far better than you ever thought it would be, because you shared information with me that was going to make it better. That's what black swans are.
Hey Foundr fam, I want to take a quick break from the conversation to talk to you about something super exciting. We're officially partnered with Omnisend, the email marketing and SMS platform built specifically for e-commerce founders. We've been recommending Omnisend to Foundr students for a while now because it just works. Whether you're launching your first store or you're scaling to 7 figures, it really helps you automate your marketing and get real results. Did you know on average, Omnisend customers make $68 for every $1 they spend, which is an insanely good return on investment. And because you're part of the Foundr community, you get 50% off your first 3 months with the code FOUNDR50. Just head to omnisend.com/Foundr without the E to get started. All right, now let's jump back into the show. Now I want to get more into some of these black swan skills and tactics, but I want you to take us back to 1993, Chase Manhattan Bank robbery. What was the exact moment that you realized, like, rational bargaining that you were trained was not working, and how did you force that pivot to emotional intelligence in real time?
Well, at that point in time, the methodology that I'd learned really had steered away from rational bargaining, what people thought was rational bargaining. The Bureau was shifting much more to crisis intervention, empathy, skills to accelerate outcomes. And so I was really trained in that and trained in a process which then I've heard it described as Zen-like or Tai Chi-like, formless. I never thought of it in those terms, but being completely open to better outcomes faster by taking a gentler approach. And the first hostage negotiator that spoke to the other side's, the main bad guy, he was very much into, I'm here to help. And the main bad guy was very manipulative. He was actually a model of many great CEO negotiators. A great CEO negotiator will always say, oh, I got a board I'm accountable to. If I make a deal with you and my board's unhappy with me, well, they're going to fire me. I'm actually scared of my board. What did this bank robber say to us? He used to say, oh my God, these other guys I'm in here with, they're more dangerous than I am. I'm actually scared of them. I got to be careful what I say to you because they might hurt me. I had no idea at the time that was going on with this guy. Highly controlled, highly manipulative, great at laying responsibility off on others. We initially misassessed him as an inadequate personality. He was more than adequate. And because of that, my approach to him with empathy, he didn't know what it was, but he found it disturbing. I could tell he was disturbed by an understanding approach, non-threatening approach. He wanted point-counterpoint argument approach, manipulation. And empathy works really good with highly manipulative people on the other side because they know, their gut tells them their manipulation is unsuccessful, which is unsettling for them, but they're still drawn to it and they don't really understand why. They don't get angry. And that's exactly the way this guy reacted. And we got some admissions out of him that he didn't mean to make, which contributed significantly to capture of his accomplice that wasn't there, and also made him look much more guilty. Then he initially got to the point where he was so disturbed by my gentle understanding and empathy that he didn't increase the threat level at all, but he handed off the phone to another bank robber inside who wanted nothing but to get out of there alive, which is highly emotional. And I had that guy surrendering to me out in front of the bank about 90 minutes later.
And how did you do that?
Listening to him, it was really more than anything, it was tone of voice. My tone of voice got to him so that like about 90 seconds into the conversation, he literally said to me, I trust you. I gained trust with him just based on a calming, soothing tone of voice, which is one of the fastest way to get trust or to lose it, based on a bad tone of voice. And then some of the critical instances were another member of my team read him between the lines better than I did. When you're the talker in a negotiation, under any circumstances, business and otherwise, when you're thinking about what you want to say, you're missing insights into the other person. And so we teach people to negotiate in teams. You got another set of ears there looking to pick up stuff that you missed. Somebody else on the team picked up nuances in what this guy was saying. The principal one was, of course, as a hostage negotiator, I'm trying to get him to let go hostages. What am I there for? Get a hostage out, right? Somebody else on the team heard that he wanted to come out. And I got handed a note that said, ask him if he wants to come out. So in the middle of working on him, about hostages, I looked at the note. I'm coachable. If anything, I'm coachable. And I said, do you want to come out? Like 180-degree pivot on him, like on the spot. And there was hesitation in his voice. And he said, I don't know how I do that, which is a great big giant, yes, I do. Just give me some implementation. Please get me the heck out of here. And so, I did that 180-degree turn and kept listening to him and talked about consequences. And 90 minutes later, he was in handcuffs, and I was putting my shoulder around him out behind one of the SWAT trucks in front of the bank.
Incredible story. Thank you for sharing. So one thing I want to talk about around that idea of building trust when it comes to any negotiation, founders often obsess about getting the yes from investors, hiring this rock star team member, landing this big deal or sale. And you have a different approach. You argue that yes is often counterfeit. And how does saying no actually protect a founder and give them leverage and expose the truth of getting a deal?
Well, saying no and hearing no. And in any given moment, any given word, depending upon what side of it you're on, it's a vastly different experience for you and the other person. When you hear yes, you feel wonderful. When you say it, you worry about what you're letting yourself in for. Now, there's a selling technique called the yes momentum or momentum selling. And basically, it's get 3 yeses in a row. This builds the yes momentum. Each yes is a micro agreement or a tie down. And then they have to say yes to the big thing. Would you like clean water? Would you like to be healthy? Would you like to have clean water at the best possible cost? Would you like to buy my water filter? Bang. The hook is common. Now, nearly everybody learned the yes momentum globally, worldwide. And they went from making no sales to some sales. And so they say, I make deals all the time with yes. But the problem is it's been used so much, and there are some industries that are notorious for looping people into bad deals, that everybody has been bamboozled with the yes momentum. Every human being on earth. And I got data from coaching hostage negotiations globally to coaching business negotiations globally. China, India, Russia, South America, Western Europe. Everybody learned the yes momentum. It's been out there for 75 years. Everybody's been bamboozled with the yes momentum. And it's like being a battered child. A battered child doesn't care that you just wanted to give it a hug. They see the arms raised, they think they're going to get hit, they pull away. Everybody's yes battered. So it's so pervasive that frequently people will give you a counterfeit yes because they want to hear the hook. They want to hear what you have to say. They want to back out. Or they just want you to finish their sales pitch so they can move on. Yeah. Because the sooner I say yes, the sooner we get to the conclusion of this, and the sooner I can get back to my day. And I'll say, let me think about it. And since I said yes, you're all excited. And you say, let me think about it. And then I never hear from you again. I get ghosted. I promise you, if you're being ghosted, you were trying to get the other side to say yes, and they felt bamboozled. You didn't mean to be bamboozling them. I'm not saying that was your intention. The problem is it's the impact residue from the people that did. So the stupid thing is, get them to say no. Instead of saying, do you agree? Say, do you disagree? What'll happen then is, yes triggers anxiety, feelings of anxiety. No, saying it, triggers feelings of safety. So if I say to you, I mean for you to agree and tell me problems, I say, do you disagree? You're hoping I'd say, yes, but here are the problems. Nobody's ever willing to say that because they feel they're digging themselves more deeply into the hole. So when I say, do you disagree? You'll say, no, but here are the problems, and you'll give them to me freely. And that's the information that you need. Whether you're a founder, business owner, whoever you're negotiating with, you need to identify the obstacles. And so make them feel safe by telling you no. So then they feel it's okay to share obstacles. No, people don't give a counterfeit no. It's saying no that makes them feel that they're okay to continue talking. And that's really what you want. And that's the whole difference. Are you saying it? Are you hearing it? What happens when you say it? What happens when you hear it? You want the other side to feel comfortable telling you things. They're more comfortable if you get them to say no. So just flip the question.
So one thing that I had to ask you that was coming to mind as you're telling me this is I'm putting myself in similar situations where, I've done deals and all sorts of things, and you talked about the infamous, I'll have to think about it. I need a day, or like I need some time. Let me come back to you. And it hurts, man. Like it hurts. Yeah. Do you ever get that anymore?
No, because I just don't. We dial in really quickly whether or not the other side's sincere. So I know if having demonstrated to you, I'm not trying to push you into a corner. I'm going to say out loud what your perspective is. I'm going to smell early on whether or not you were just pumping me for information. Or what, and there's two issues. Were you pumping me for information? Were you doing due diligence? Are you playing me off against somebody? Or did my approach create anxiety in you? Now, I'm going to know early on whether or not you're doing due diligence, playing me off against somebody, pumping me for information. So if I get to, I need time to think about it, I'm going to say to him, it sounds to me like you're still shopping around. It sounds to me like we're not going to be able to do it this time around, and there's somebody else. You have a preferred provider. I want you to know if they ever disappoint you, that I want to have a long-term relationship with you where we prosper together for 20 years. And when you're ready to make a mutual commitment, please get back to me. Now, at that point in time, I'm not in limbo wondering if you're ever going to get back to me. I've effectively said goodbye. The door's always open, but I'm moving on. Now, I'm not going to make you feel uncomfortable getting to that point because I'm not going to try to get you to say yes. I'm going to try to show you that I understand your problems. You want me to understand you, but you really want me to understand your problems more. Like, you could care less if I know that you played golf. You care a lot more about if I know the challenges that you're up against. If I understand your problems. And the people that I do business with, we exchange no common ground. I don't care where they're from. I don't care their gender, their ethnicity. I don't care their sexual preference. I care whether or not they understand my problems. That's the filter for me, because I found out I could have a lot of things in common with you demographic-wise, and you will be clueless as to solving my problems. So I'm completely agnostic about that. I want to know what you know about what I'm up against. You could be a space alien with 4 arms. If you understand my challenges, let's do business.
Yeah, I love that, man. That was awesome. I'm gonna use that. That was incredible. I'm gonna have to go back to this and take notes and try that. That was great. Thank you. Another thing that came to me coming just kind of us speaking is I'm going to get a bit personal here. My mum, she's incredible at reading people. She was a nurse for 40, 50 years. And she always said to me, Nathan, I've just met so many people in my life. I can just tell, I can read what's going on. And my dad, on the other hand, always says, your mum thinks she knows what other people are thinking, but that is impossible to know what somebody else is thinking all the time. What would you say to that? And do you believe you can always tell what somebody else is thinking, reading them, working them out, and knowing what the mood is? Because you feel great if you do. You know what I mean? Like, you're in a situation, because we were constantly in discourse where I'm constantly meeting people, all sorts of things. And, naturally, you're trying to work out this person. Like you said, are they trying to work me? What's going on here? What's the angle, right? So it feels good if you think you know what is going on, but do you believe you can always read people, or is it impossible?
Well, it's a couple different things. Like my read of you and what you're thinking specifically don't exactly align. So intention has a smell. And your mother has gotten really good at sensing intention, which is not exactly the same thing as what are they saying to themselves in the moment. So she's reading something differently than what your father's really talking about. So those aren't contradictory. I have found that the more I dial into how you're feeling and identify what you're feeling, because your thoughts and your actions are going to be driven by your emotions in a moment. And it's hard to ignore what you're saying to focus on your emotions that are driving you. I can't do it all the time. But I've literally had people say to me, you're reading my mind. And inside I'm saying, like, no, I'm reading your emotions. And so I'm reading your emotions, I'm reading your intent. Now, over a long period of time, exposure, your mother, you said your mother was a nurse?
Yeah.
And did you say emergency room or just a nurse?
No, well, she's practiced all types of nursing, midwifery. I think she did do some time in emergency, but also psych. So she's done a lot of different fields in nursing.
So there's real short time frame between impact and consequences in the medical profession. So you got to get in, you got to dial in on a read real quick, because if they're there for a health reason or not, that's going to become fairly apparent fairly quickly. So people in those sorts of positions have got to get good at a quick read as, where's this person coming from? Are they hypochondriac, or have they got an accurate diagnosis? Or is their reaction a combination of the two? Are they panicked? How do I diagnose this? Now, every human being is capable of doing that. You're going to increase your capability the more often you got to be put in the middle of the battle on a regular basis. Like, I think when my emotional intelligence was probably at its highest point when I was on the crisis hotline twice a month, 4 hours at a crack, and I was sticking to the process and making sure that I stuck to the process. And there were times that I let my skills deteriorate, and consequently my reads and my reactions were poor. So they're perishable skills. And over a long period of time, your mother probably got her gut instinct for sensing people really wired in really quickly, which again, then is not always knowing what somebody else is thinking. Simultaneously, your father's reaction, this is a close, intimate relationship of close personal action over a long-term period of time. What in point of fact does that mean with a significant other? The closeness of the relationship interferes in your read. The closeness of the relationship may interfere in your reactions to the read. Your mother and your father being that close and having that much contact with each other is far more higher rate of frequency with exponential penalties for mistakes, where your mother in a hospital, the sporadic interaction with people that she has a relationship with that's not as intimate for as an extended period of time. What does that mean? Intimate relationships are tougher because the two of you are likely to have overlooked things just based on a sheer number of hours you spent together.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you do believe that it is possible to get a read on people and know their emotions and where they're at purely from trained skills?
I think everything is learned ultimately. And so, yeah, you can get good at it. It's just an issue of how open are you to learning, how much you enjoy it, and how much time to spend on it.
So one thing you talk about is body language and tonality. These are things that I think founders don't truly, unless you're like really into sales, these are things that are often overlooked that people can pick up very, very, very quickly. Tonality, body language, facial expressions, all these different things that can very, very quickly, even in like before that person even starts speaking, if you trust them or not. What advice would you give to founders when it comes to having that level of self-awareness and being conscious of these things? Because we're not often in conscious control of what we're actually doing.
Right. No, yeah, these things, it's very similar to your breathing. Like your breathing sort of runs along on its own. And I'd ask you, can you control your breathing? You say, of course. And I go like, all right, so hold your breath. But I never tell you when you can stop. You know, your system's going to go back on autopilot. You're going to start breathing again. You don't have to consciously breathe, but you can't consciously interrupt it. What's that have to do with body language? So, first of all, the other side's going to notice what they perceive to be, if it's incongruent. That's going to disturb them. Secondly, tone of voice is usually more important than body language because body language lacks. It's hit people through the visual images. I mean, it's a little more convoluted. Like I can begin to have a positive impact on you as soon as I start speaking, based on my tone of voices, which is what I did to that bank robber at the Chase Manhattan Bank. I used a downward, inflecting, calm, confident voice. And he says, I trust you. So voice is huge. As Derek Gone on my team, also co-author of one of the books behind me, Fight Less, Win More. Great book. It's a supplement to Never Split the Difference, companion book. Derek says, your tone sets the tone. Ooh, okay. Now, body language. If I got a frown on my face, I could be angry. I could be listening. I'm one of those people, I have what I refer to as the resting serial killer face. Like if I'm listening intently, you think, based on a read on my face, that I'm thinking about chopping you up in the basement and serving you to the neighbors with a nice Chianti and fava beans. You know, the Hannibal Lecter thing. When I'm just listening, that's the way I look when I'm listening intensely. I've had people tell me that, like, you scared me. Like, when? Well, you know, I was giving this talk and you were sitting up front and you look furious. I was like, I was listening. I thought it was a great talk. So then if I have a frown on my face while you're talking, I could have gas. So what does that mean? What does that mean? The body language 2 out of 3 times is misinterpreted. Understand the other side. There's a pretty good chance the other side's going to misinterpret your body language. And so you got to clear it up. If you think intensely, you're going to look mad when you're actually listening with all of your superpowers. It's going to impact the other side improperly. If you shift uneasily in your chair, It could be because you're unhappy with what I just said and you're mad at me, or you just were willing to confront a difficult reality that I helped you see. So in terms of your body language, in terms of your counterpart's body language, explore it with them in a way that doesn't feel intrusive to find out. What do I mean by that? If I see you shift uncomfortably in your chair, I'm going to say to you, it seems like something just crossed your mind. Founders, if you're talking to investors, if you're talking to people whose collaboration you're trying to get, you see any shift in body language or facial expression, the way to find out what's going on so you don't misinterpret is to simply say, it seems like something just crossed your mind, which is going to be completely accurate and completely open. Then you're going to find out, no, I'm just listening. No, yeah, that made me mad. No, you helped me realize something true. No, my breakfast isn't settled properly in my stomach. Whatever it is. Reading the body language of other people takes practice and context. And how do you get that? Find out gently what their body language means. And then understand that your counterparts are probably misinterpreting your body language. Consequently, self-awareness and communication about it is all that's needed to clear it up.
Hey guys, I really hope you're feeling inspired from today's interview. The truth is, there's never been a better time to build an e-commerce business. And the best part is, you don't need to do it alone. That's where Foundr Plus comes in, which I'm really excited to share with you. If you are feeling stuck in your e-commerce business, lacking the confidence to really move forward, or you're worrying about making costly mistakes or how to drive your sales, Foundr Plus is here to support you. You get access to a customized learning pathway with proven frameworks from successful e-commerce founders for fast results, a supportive community. We have weekly live mentorship and workshops and exclusive savings on startup tools and 24/7 real human support. You can try Foundr Plus today for just $1 for 7 days so you can accelerate your business goals. Just visit foundr.com/start $trial or click the link in the description to claim your trial. All right, now let's jump back into the show. Something that came up for me when you were describing body language and tonality is you brought me back to a time when I met this really successful person. So I was part of, I'm not sure if you're familiar with EO Entrepreneurs
Yes.
Organization. Yep.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I was a member of EO and also YPO. And
And then there's a farmer's version of that, which is EIO.
oh, okay.
I'm
Yeah.
from Iowa, so I'm allowed to say that. For all of you people out there who are from farm country, they are offended. I grew up in Iowa. All right, you happy now? They are offended. I grew up in Iowa. All right, you happy now?
Yeah, you threw me off. Okay, so part of EO, they had like a mentoring program. And I got linked up with this guy, super successful guy, sold his company for a large amount of money. And I remember the first time meeting him. So this is a really interesting situation. So I remember the first time meeting him, every time he would talk, there would be these extremely long sentences of silence, and he was speaking so calmly, but I didn't know whether he had stopped talking or not. And it was really freaking me out, man, because I'm just like, what the hell is going on here? Like, I don't know like what I should do. And I was feeling incredibly uncomfortable. And I remember telling my mum this situation, and she said, yeah, Nathan, I think that's like a form of power and control.
There are many people that use pauses to take complete control and never relinquish it in a conversation. A lot of people do that. when I run across somebody like that, you got some choices. You want to find out if you're correct. It's a diagnostic. How you do anything is how you do everything. Do I want to be handcuffed to somebody that's always doing that to me? Personally, no, I do not. At some point in time, I'm probably going to say some of the effect of, are you talking at me or are you talking with me? I definitely, confrontation, one of the definitions of it is a focus comparison. I'm allowed to make focus comparisons based on what's in the dynamic between the two of us right now. I'm allowed to make an inquiry. I'm allowed to make an observation. What tone of voice I use is going to make a difference as to whether or not it's an accusation or an inquiry. Let me use a tone of voice to say it as an inquiry as opposed to an accusation. At least say it in a way so that my tone allows it to land. And there are many people that are control-oriented, control freaks, which means collaboration is going to be minimal, which means you're always going to leave a good deal on the table because you can't get to the better deal without collaboration. So your mother's assessment is highly likely to be accurate, not 1,000%. So if my gut instinct is telling me this is the case, I'm going to find a way to make an inquiry to make them aware of it. My intention is to let you know that I see something, and then your reaction to that is going to change everything. If you deny it and continue, now it's manipulation. If you're caught off guard and you change, it was a bad habit and you didn't intend it. Cool. Now I know which one it is.
Yep. Saying hello to the elephant in the room.
Well said.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of that. All right. So that was interesting. So most founders negotiate by meeting in the middle. We've talked about collaboration. There's meeting in the middle, but you teach the Ackerman model. So if a supplier, you're looking to, purchase a ton of stock for your brand, you want to negotiate with your supplier, they tell you it's $50,000 and this is the MOQ and that is what it is. Walk us step by step through how exactly you would counter offer that supplier to get the lowest price possible.
Well, and we're far less into bargaining for business success these days. Like if you're going to force me into bargaining, like I can bargain. That's the Ackerman method. But the lowest price possible might put my supplier out of business. Like I'm looking for mutual gain. I don't need you grabbing with both hands. I'm not trying to grab with both hands. We're not going to have a long-term relationship of prosperity if we're both grabbing with both hands. Now, is this a one-off? One-offs don't make for long-term relationships of prosperity. I avoid one-offs. If you're a one-off kind of person, my investment in a relationship's not going to pay off because you're a one-off. So there's a lot of assessment that goes into whether or not I'm bargaining. Now, if we're going to get into bargaining, if we're going to get there, my first reaction is going to be, if you say it's $50,000, I'm going to probably say, $50,000? Now, that's a mirror. And one of my clients pointed out to me a long time ago that he always mirrors the other side's demands, positions, assertions. Their response is going to tell him whether it's firm or it's a throwaway. If $50,000 is what you need and going below that is going to damage our relationship. And I value the relationship, I want to pay the $50,000. Now, if you ask for way more than you need, because you're used to the other knuckleheads making you cut your price, I'm not particularly interested in you asking for way more than you need. When I mirror the $50,000, a real short, direct, straight answer to that mirror is going to be, it's probably solid. A long, waffling, all over the place answer is you pop the price. And it's not, and there's a lot of latitude there. So I got to diagnose what your term is to begin with. And I want to get a price that we both like. If I cut your throat, you're not going to want to do business with me again. If I overpay, I'm not going to want to do business with you again. What we're really looking for is a sweet spot number where we both want to keep the relationship going. So now we're into long-term greedy. It's a Gus Levy phrase from Goldman Sachs. Greedy, yes, but long-term greedy. A long tail of prosperous business. I don't got to make all my margins on this deal. No, it's not bad. It's what a lot of people default to because they don't really know how to make a better price, or they're worried about time frame. They're under time pressures. That's not a bad default. You won't do bad going there. You're leaving money on the table, but you're going to keep your job. You're going to keep your company afloat. You're not going to do bad. But to really get better, I want to know what's going to make a better fit. Like if you're looking at a suit in a store and it's exactly the style and it's exactly the color you want. If it doesn't fit, cutting a price does not make that suit fit. You walk in, you look at the suit and you tell the guy, look, the sleeves are too short. Okay, well, if the sleeves are too short, I'll take a little bit of money off the price because you're getting less material. No, the sleeves are still short. It still doesn't fit. So some suits can be altered. Some suits have shortcomings. If the body in a suit ain't long enough, there's nothing you could do to fix the body. You start adjusting the body too much, then the pockets look like they're in the wrong spot. So it's a combination of everything. What I want is a suit that fits, and I'll pay the price for a suit that fits because the next time I walk into your store, I want you to give me the same amount of extra consideration you gave to me last time. So, that's why we immediately veer away from price in negotiations, because you don't make a better deal by changing the price. You make a better deal by working on the terms. And in many cases, there's a set of terms that will make the deal more profitable for you without touching the price. And people are emotional over price. So you feel I've cut your throat over price, and I'm going to have delivery problems. I have cut people's throat over price. And the downstream consequences always made that price not so good.
So you're usually focused on terms more than price.
Yeah, absolutely. You pay me $13 an hour or whatever, I flip burgers at McDonald's. Maybe I'm not that enthusiastic about that. You pay me $13 an hour. I'm Warren Buffett's personal assistant. Ooh, I'll do that for the same amount of money because Look how much I'm going to learn being around that guy all the time. Which makes the salary price irrelevant. And salary is a price term in a negotiation. What are you getting with that?
Look, man, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. This has been a ton of fun. I've learnt a ton personally. We have to work towards wrapping up. One last question. If you could implant one negotiation habit that every founder listening to this needs to practice that will compound over decades, what would that be?
Summarize the other side's perspective before you provide your own. Summarize it out loud back to them. They are dying to know that you heard them. Whatever your disagreement is, and I don't care who you are, you could be an Israeli and a Palestinian. Summarize their perspective back to them. Get a confirmation from them that they believe you understand their perspective. That confirmation comes in the following 2 words. That's right. No matter what your disagreement or even your mutual objective is, your collaboration will increase every single time you do that. Business deals, half the time, your deal will be made on the spot. Giving your employees direction, half the time, when you give the direction, that's all it's going to take. When people feel heard and involved, they want to collaborate with you. There's never any downside to doing that. The 2 of you will move closer to complete collaboration than you were before you summarize their perspective. You don't have to go on for 20 minutes. Summarize the high points. You might say, so far you've told me, as a result you feel. You might say, before I disagree, here's what I believe your perspective is. You might say, before I present my side, here's what I believe your side is. However you put it, get a confirmation from them that you got it right. You're going to be shocked in a wonderful way at how effective that is at creating collaboration nearly instantly on the spot. You'll draw closer together no matter what size, the size of the gulf was before you started talking.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Chris. This was a ton of fun, incredibly valuable conversation. And yeah, look, I really, really appreciate you taking the time and giving back to our community.
Pleasure was mine. Thank you.
Hey guys, if you love this episode, make sure to check out this interview with Scooter Braun on how he identifies talent that could go on to find wild success like Justin Bieber and Ariana Grande.
Justin Bieber was the most talented, gifted kid I'd ever met. It was so insane how great of a singer he was, how soulful he was. What he could do on the drums naturally, taught himself with guitar, drums. Like, he was a phenomenon. And we met at the perfect time in both of our lives.